Okay, great. All right. So thank you for giving me opportunity to assist you. I know you wanted us to cover the theory, so I've got that document you sent through, chapter 11 and 12. So I'm going to go
Yes.
through this in detail just so you are comfortable with the workings. And then if there's anything that you are unsure about and you want me to elaborate and go into a bit more detail, or cover in a bit more detail, then let me know.
Okay.
I'm assuming you have the basics in terms of rules for accounting. Is that a fair
Yes.
assumption?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what like defines an asset, a liability, income,
Yes.
expenses, and then capital and drawings. Those are the five, well, six most important
Yes.
rules. The four you'll need: assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. Capital and drawings shouldn't come up too much in a section
Yeah.
like this because it's very practical. It's obviously very much focused on law and from a legal perspective rather than from an accounting or financial perspective. So a little bit different. So you can maybe add a bit more of the law background to the discussion as we go. You can just give a bit more context, but from an accounting perspective, I will provide you with that knowledge and I'll share the workings with you. So I think let's start with this chapter. I did have a quick look through it before we started, and I saw they were
Okay.
referring to chapter 10. So I
Oh,
assume you've gone
sorry.
through the other chapters as well.
Yes, no, we do. I didn't want to send you the whole
Yeah, no, you
manual.
don't have to. That's
I
fine.
can.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you have covered what you need to cover, so you are familiar with the content in the rest of the chapter or the rest of the textbook.
You know what, Anthony? She never really went according to the manual. It went into practical and then theory. She's assuming you'll do it your own time. But
Yes.
it
Okay.
started off with the basic um, the double entry, and then she built on it from there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but you've gone through other basics in this textbook, so you're struggling with these two chapters, 11 and 12.
Yeah, I think for me it was uh, when is the money transferred between the TCB and the BCB?
Okay.
Um, and when you've got to pay the client or the correspondent, what happens with the relationship between the TCB and the BCB? Where do does the
Okay.
money have to go back to the TCB first and then get paid out? How do you balance those two accounts?
Okay. All right, that gives more context. Okay, that's great. So yeah, I think maybe we'll also try and maybe draw a picture just to keep track of it.
Yes,
So
please.
that'll also maybe help with the actual understanding. So when we're
Can I just
looking,
check if Judith, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Judith.
Okay. Thanks. Hello.
okay, all right. So if we're looking at a legal practice, okay, remember the accounting or the bookkeeping. That's going to be done by the actual practice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so your practice is going to keep track of all the money that comes into the business. And remember, you're keeping that money on behalf of the client. In other words, you're going to be maybe paying certain disbursements on behalf of the client in order for the client to achieve a certain goal based on whatever case you're dealing with. So,
Yeah.
your business, your legal practice, is responsible for all the bookkeeping, and you're responsible for keeping track of what's happening in the actual company from an accounting perspective. So when they talk about like a trust bank account or a business bank account, it's still one practice, but you've got two separate
Yes.
accounts. So when you do accounting, you have a general ledger. Okay, again, this is just basics, but basics that are important just in terms of understanding.
Yes.
So when you do see these accounts, you have an understanding of what it actually means from a practical point of view. So accountants record balances in general ledger accounts, in the general ledger. Okay, so each account will have a debit side and a credit side. So obviously debit
Yeah.
side, credit side. Okay, the left and the right. So when you see, so I know when I was looking at, because again, different institutions use slightly different material, but the basics are the same. So I saw in your textbook, they tend to use columns, okay, rather than tier counts. They do show some of the tier counts, but only later on. But,
No,
but
we actually did tier counts with her, and then what? Sorry, my dog is being a nuisance. What she has in the textbook, it throws me a little bit because I
okay,
rather stick to the tier count
yeah,
format.
okay, yeah, it's fine. Those columns. So when they use columns, the columns are nice just to look at the comparison, because then you can put all the transactions together and you can see the totals and you can check that those columns basically balance. So in other words, the left and the right. Okay, but
Yeah.
when I say left and the right, looking at those columns, so this total and that total being the same, okay, when you're looking at those accounts, you don't actually see that because those accounts have debits and credits, and then you've got to balance those accounts off, and then the balance will either be a debit balance on this side or maybe a credit balance on that side, depending
Yes.
on the situation. So it's important to just understand the context, and then we can obviously deal with those different scenarios separately. So that's important to understand. And then another thing is just the bank account. So you'll have like a trust bank account, okay, and then obviously a business bank account. Right, so this is obviously in terms of legislation. So the rules state that obviously a law practice needs to keep their funds separate from their clients. So when
Yes.
clients deposit money into the practice, into the law practice, remember you're basically representing your client. So you have the knowledge in terms of the area of law, and you're obviously applying your knowledge in different situations based on what the client wants. So if you're representing your client, obviously you're not going to run to the client all the time and ask the client for money for this or money for that. The client's going to give you a certain amount of money, and they're going to say, well, okay, here's the money that you are requiring, and now on my
Yes.
behalf, do whatever work you
Yeah.
need to do. And then that obviously is for them to fit the bill. So you're not going to pay for client disbursement. So whatever the client needs to pay for, the client must pay for. So you're going to be accounting for that. So even though you're seeing these two ledgers, like you're seeing a trust, you might see a trust general ledger account or a business general ledger account, it's still part of the same business, because remember, the accounting practice is the focus. So you're going to be keeping track of what belongs to the client and obviously what belongs to the business. But because you're one and the same, in other words, all of this is accounted for in your books, you've got to keep track of what's happening in the client's records, as well as the business. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, that's important context, like just overview. So when you go through different application questions, you just need to think about that. So you need to ask yourself, well, who's actually paying this expense? Is it the client, okay, or is it the business? And if it's the client, then obviously you need to consider like the fees, okay. And because the only reason why I'm mentioning this now is because you're talking about the correspondence. Okay, so if I'm looking at the legal practice, sometimes your scope is limited and you're not able to do the work that you're supposed to on behalf of the client. Sometimes you need help from other people, and that's why you have those correspondents that can maybe assist you,
Yes.
and those fees that you're going to be generating on behalf of the client. Okay, when I say on behalf, so the fees that you're earning from the client, okay, because you're doing work on behalf of the client, those fees need to be split potentially between you, so in other words, your business, and then the correspondent, okay, the inverted commas, the service delivery. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's just some context. Let's go back to that textbook, okay, just to go through the content in chapter 11 and 12. So, chapter 11, the focus here is receiving instructions from clients who are legal practitioners, okay, known as correspondence. All right, so here you're going to be receiving instructions, okay, from clients, all right, that are your legal practitioners. So in other words, the correspondents. So getting instructions from them, okay. They've given the outcomes here. In the introduction, it's just highlighting the different roles here. So they spoke about the legal practitioner, okay, the attorney or the conveyancer receives an instruction from another legal practitioner, attorney or conveyancer in a matter where the last mentioned, so this body, this person, okay, for jurisdictional reasons cannot attend to or finalize the matter. Okay, so if we had to draw a picture, all right, here's the practice. Okay, let's just copy paste that. Okay, there's the practice, and then you have the correspondence. Okay, in terms of like the work being done, okay, which way are we looking at, or like is it flowing left to right or right to left? Like which one? Which way?
Right to left.
Yes, right to left. Okay, so the correspondent, okay, is that other
Yes.
law practice. Okay, they're unable to do a certain task. Okay, they're asking your law practice to help them. Okay, so you're receiving the instructions. Okay, you're going to be getting instructions to help them with something, whatever it is. Okay, we'll go see what type of scenarios you could possibly have. Okay, but that's important to understand as well. Right, and remember,
That's right.
your law practice, okay, is going to be accounting for all of those transactions, and you're going to be recording things in your books, okay, that could relate to their client. Because remember, the client is going to be sitting on this side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
When I say client,
I
the
think
individual.
and even the other way, Anthony, I don't want us to focus on things that I think are, that we understand.
Okay.
For me, it's more when it gets to the the questions, the exam paper questions, the actual workings. But I think this is, this we understand.
Okay.
Do
all right.
that?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, just to add here, I've been practicing where we get the instructions from that attorney and you issue summons and then you do your journal entries and then you do a ledger, you do posting to ledger, and then you get about 5 different scenarios where you are doing transactions, summons, doing commission, and then you're earning fees. But the problem is at the end, I didn't understand how do you then account, because she went too fast to explain. At the end, you finished all these transactions. How do you then give that money back?
Yeah.
For that money from the TCB to the BCB, because she just rattled and then put the money into the account of the correspondence trust account or the business account, and then you must pay them because you've got to do a statement at the end. But she didn't explain properly. How do you work out that? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I think let's go through examples then, just to focus more on that application then. So I can assume then the knowledge in terms of what's outlined here is fine. Okay. I see we do have an example here. Okay. So this example is look at the legal practitioner practicing in Messina. They've instructed a client, okay, ABC Limited, conducting business in Messina, okay, to collect an amount of 48,000 from Abe Malloy. Okay, Abe Malloy, the debtor, resides in Pretoria. Okay, the practitioner is Messina, so they can't attend to the matter and must instruct a practitioner in Pretoria to collect the 48,000. Okay, so if we just take this diagram that they've got here and just put that perspective here. Okay, so so who would be the client?
Is it the from Abe Malloy? So the client is in the legal practice.
Yes.
No, ABC.
Okay. Yeah, and the legal
Because
practitioner.
the lawyer is the debtor.
Yeah, well, they're collecting money from the debtor. So ABC is trying to
Yeah.
collect outstanding funds from Abe. So Abe is probably a problematic customer. They've probably
Yes, yes.
defaulted or they haven't paid a certain amount of money, and now legal actions being taken against them. And obviously, because of the distance, okay, Messina Pretoria, okay, that's obviously a big difference. So you're not going to be traveling up and down. So in this case, okay, our legal practice, who are we in this case? We are we.
We are in Messina. Has been instructed by a client conducting to collect an amount. So we are a legal practice.
We're in Pretoria.
Yes. Okay, we're the Pretoria practice.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay, again, the picture is everything in terms of understanding, because once you know who's
Oh, we're
who,
in Pretoria, yeah.
once you know
Okay.
who's who, then you can apply that knowledge in the actual question. So the legal practitioner, okay, the practitioner that's going to be doing the work on behalf of the correspondent.
Okay, I understand the question now. Yeah, okay.
Okay, and obviously the client is ABC. Okay, if I had to put Abe here, Abe is going to be on this side.
Yes, okay.
All right, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so Abe is the problematic client. Okay, well, their client, in other words, the customer. Let's change the word client to customer just to make it a bit different.
Yes.
Okay, the client is ABC. Okay, they're running a business. Obviously, the law practice in Messina,
Yeah.
okay, can't go to Pretoria to collect money
Yeah.
from this customer because
From
Abe
that
is in
guy,
Pretoria.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so if Abe is sitting in Pretoria and your legal practice is in Messina, you're going to need someone else to help you with that. So Pretoria, the Pretoria practice is basically the person that's, or the business that's going to be doing the work. In other words,
yeah.
collecting the funds from Abe.
Got it.
Okay, all right. So obviously they need to collect the 48,000. Okay, from the clients. All right, then if you look at the accounting, you'll see they give you a bit more information at the bottom. Okay, so that was example A. Example A is just setting out the picture, okay, because you need to understand who's who, and then afterwards you'll see different instructions, okay, because remember, in this particular chapter, if we go back to the heading, receiving instructions from clients who are legal practitioners. So if I'm looking at the scenario, the accounting practice is going to be receiving instructions from a correspondent, which is a legal practice, on behalf of their clients. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now if we look at some of the instructions that could take place, in this example, they said a pensioner residing in Messina sold his immovable property situated in, okay, so this is another example, okay, where you have the same situation. Okay, so you'll also have to show this. In other words, who's who. Okay, so I don't think I need to do another example. Is that fine?
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right, then from these examples, they've given you points to note. Okay, so these points are important just to understand in terms of the legislation. Okay, it's clear that the practitioner or conveyancer in Messina do not have jurisdiction to attend the matters. Okay, so we know sometimes you're going to need help, and they're explaining all of that. Okay, here at the bottom, though, they're talking about the fees. Okay, Section 34(5)(b) of the Legal Practice Act authorizes the instructed attorney to share his or her fees with the instructing attorney. Okay, so the instructing attorney would be, in this case, the correspondent, okay?
Yes.
And the attorney being instructed would be the law practice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and in that situation, okay, any fees, all right, that are being charged must be shared, because remember, you're doing work for a client. So those two law practices are basically, inverted commas, almost like in a partnership, okay, where they need to share any fees that are generated through the work that's being done for the clients. Okay, I see there is a note here. They said the maximum percentile
Yes.
allowed to be shared is 33.3%, which is 1/3. Okay, so the parties
That's
can,
right.
however, agree on a lesser percentile. All right, so up to 1/3, but not more, but it can be less depending on what they've negotiated. All right, I think the rest is fine there. Okay, here, let's look at the sharing of fees. Okay, so due to the fact that the attorney or conveyancer in Messina referred work to the attorney or conveyancer Pretoria. Okay, there's the picture. This business, law practice, referring work to that law practice. Okay, the latter may share his or her fees charged in the matter, not on any disbursements though. Okay, so obviously disbursements are payments that they would have to have made, okay, on behalf of the client. So remember, the client is ABC, okay? So if they're going to be paying whatever they're going to be paying, okay, obviously any payment or disbursement on behalf of the client, they wouldn't be entitled to any fee, because remember, the fees are only for the work that's done in terms of the practice, okay, the law practice. Okay. The allowance is usually granted between colleagues in the legal fraternity in circumstances where one instructs the other. All right. And then you've got a note here about the fee journal. Okay. So 4.7 was that example we spoke about earlier. Okay. This example, the one that we drew.
Yeah.
Okay. There's 4.7a. Okay. Or 47a. They said in the debt collection matter. So in the matter that we just drew. Okay. This picture here on your screen. Okay. The attorney in Pretoria. So where are we? We're sitting here. Okay. This attorney is going to be debiting a fee for taking instructions in the amount of 500 plus VAT. Okay. So I assume your calculations are fine. Is everyone okay with working out 15% of 500, adding the VAT to this amount to get the VAT inclusive?
Yes.
Is that fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just say one thing? So in this case, we must deduct the VAT off. Am I correct? To work out, we must know what the VAT is.
Okay, so the reason why you have to show VAT separately is because law practices are probably going to be registered for VAT. So as a VAT vendor, okay, you're legally obligated to show or to account for separately. Okay, because SARS is going to want a VAT return from your business. Okay, so the only reason why VAT is shown separately is because of that. Okay, VAT is another law that we need to apply that relates to SARS, okay, input VAT or output VAT, depending on who we are. Okay, so if we're buying or selling, okay, that's a slightly separate consideration. It's not going to affect this working too much. The only thing that you would have to do is definitely show the VAT separately. So you would have to account for it separately. Okay, because VAT, remember, is paid over to SARS. That's not kept inside the business either.
Okay. Am I right that this one, you've got to go 500 times 15 divide by 115? Is it that calculation?
No. Okay, no. So maybe let's just recap VAT calculations quickly, just to make sure that you're on the right page. Okay, so with VAT calculations, okay, there's a VAT inclusive amount. That VAT inclusive amount is the VAT exclusive amount plus VAT. Okay, that's the basic calculation. Okay, so if I had VAT exclusive of 100, okay, the VAT percentage in this country is 15%.
15.
So the VAT would be 15. And then the VAT inclusive amount would amount to 115. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're looking at that as being the ratio, okay, depending on what questions you get, in this scenario, 500 plus VAT, 500 is representing the VAT exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you are going to have to calculate the other amounts. So if I'm working out the VAT, to calculate VAT, I'm going to take VAT exclusive and multiply that by 15%.
15%.
Okay, which is basically 15 over 100.
Yeah, 75.
Okay, and then we just have to add to get that.
Yeah.
All right, sometimes you might have a situation, Okay, I don't know if it'll come up, but if it does, then you'll know how to work it out. Okay, sometimes they might give you a VAT inclusive figure. Let's use, let me use a number that works out nicely. Okay, let's use 690. Okay, if this is the VAT inclusive, how do you work backwards? Do you know how to work backwards? How do you work out VAT exclusive?
Isn't this where you go times 15 divided by 115? She gave us that formula.
No, not quite. It's times 100. So VAT inclusive times 100 divided by 115. So 690 times 100 divided by 115 gives you 600. Is that all right?
So it's times 100 divided by 115.
Yes, if you're working out a
Yeah.
VAT exclusive figure.
Okay, before that. Okay, got it.
Okay, that gives you 600. And then to get the VAT can be calculated by looking at the difference.
Difference, yeah.
Okay, so the 690 minus the 600. Okay, so yeah, those are two workings that might come up depending on the question. Okay, obviously this question is dealing with VAT exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got...
Yeah, we definitely had to do input and output VAT. That's one of the
Yeah,
things we have to know.
yeah, you should,
this
because
question-
law
sorry, does
practices
this
should be
mean-
registered for VAT.
Does this mean the VAT is already included in that
No.
5?
No, okay, the VAT would be
You must- okay.
excluding.
Plus VAT.
Excluding VAT.
Okay,
So
if it's plus
500
VAT,
would
you
be
must
excluding
add the-
VAT.
Okay, you must
That's
work it
it.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it's excluding VAT, you'd have to work out the VAT.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's important to note. So, as long as you're comfortable with the workings. Okay, I see there is
Thank
a
you.
timeout on the Zoom call. If it does time out, it's the same link. So, you can just rejoin. I'll just restart the
Okay.
session. But, yeah, the link won't change. So, if it does time out, then
Okay.
please just rejoin.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, the VAT calculations, are we okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, you've got two examples here. One
That's
where you've
fine.
been given the inclusive and working backwards, and then the other one where you've got the exclusive and working forward. So working forwards or backwards, as long as you can get the VAT figures, then you should be fine. Okay, so in this example, okay, that's where these amounts came from. All right, you've got the 575. Okay, this 575 represents what?
Or fees.
Yes, the total.
That's inclusive.
Yes,
Plus
the
the
total
VAT.
amount of fees, okay,
Plus
that
VAT.
who charged.
That you charge.
Yeah, practice, the Pretoria practice.
Yes, okay, so remember, in the debt collection matter, the attorney in Pretoria is debiting a fee, okay, for the instruction. So the fee that they're going to be debiting is the 575.
Yeah.
Including the VAT. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just showing this picture because we spoke about it, so you can just keep track of what's happening. So right now, all we know is the current business, the current the attorneys that are being instructed, okay, to help with this matter. They are charging. They're taking, okay, they're debiting a fee. Okay, they're taking instructions. Right, and the fee amounts to the 575. Okay, the attorney in Messina is the correspondent. Okay, so remember they have a link, they have a bond. Okay, there's a bond here between Pretoria and Messina. In other words, this law practice is doing the work, but the work is being done for this law practice. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you're debiting the fee, if you look at the journal entry, okay, obviously a fees journal is the journal that records any income, okay, that who is entitled to.
That you are entitled to.
Yeah, the business. Okay, so it would be
Yeah.
a business income. Okay, it's got
Yes.
nothing to do with the client. Okay, remember you get a trust cash book and you get a business cash book, the BCB, the TCB.
Yes.
Okay, so you had a question earlier about BCB and TCB. So if it's a trust, if it's a trust cash book item, it's something that's happening here, not there. Does that make sense? Okay, if it's a trust cash book entry, because it's the trust, it's the client's money that's being affected.
Yeah.
Okay, when you have a correspondent, okay, because you've got this like middle person, okay, because ultimately, if you keep it simple, a law practice would have a client, and the law practice would do everything the client wants, and they collect their fees, and that's it. That's the end. The only difference now is that those fees that they're collecting are being shared with another law practice because they're not able to do the work themselves. And that's why you've now got this other consideration to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Pretoria could keep 2/3 and 1/3 needs to be paid over to correspondent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how we had to work it out.
Okay. So if you look at this, there's the fees journal. Okay, are you happy with the debits and credits here?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we spoke about the VAT. There's the VAT. Remember, it's output VAT because output VAT is on sales, okay, or services rendered. If you're rendering a service, a law practice, okay, renders services. Okay, and that would be seen as service or current income, fee income, whatever it is, okay? SARS will collect output VAT on those fees. Okay, and that's legislation. That's something separate. That's what we spoke about here, okay? Because law practices generally should be making more than $1 million a year, so it would be compulsory to register as a VAT vendor. Okay, if you're registered as a VAT vendor, you have to show output VAT separate from your fees because that VAT is collected by SARS.
Yeah.
Everyone with me? Happy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then you've got the second entry. Okay. In the business ledger, okay, you've got this correspondent business ledger account. Okay. So if it's the correspondent business ledger, remember your practice, okay, you are going to be keeping track of what's happening here. Okay. So what happened here? Well, if we go back, it said that the debt collection matter, okay, the attorney in Pretoria, okay, the Pretoria attorney. So in other words, this side of the diagram, this practice, they're debiting the fee, okay, they're collecting the fee, okay. So in this perspective, okay, if we're looking at what's happening, the correspondent here, okay, they're both correspondents, but in this picture, if I'm looking at their perspective, the correspondent would be the Messina practice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at the correspondent business ledger account, okay, because they're both correspondents in this situation, okay, they have to account for those fees that have been collected. So the debit here is representing the total, okay, the 575, which is fees plus VAT that was collected, okay, in this situation, in this scenario, okay. Later on, you'll see that you have to show the corresponding credits. Okay, every debit has a credit. That's also something that's based on the basics in accounting. Everyone happy with the debit? Every debit has to have a credit, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in the general ledger, okay, this is basically a T account. So it would look something like that. Okay, except instead of writing it down in columns, which they're doing here, you would just show 570 on this side, okay, if this was the correspondence business ledger account, or if this was the fees account, then you would show a credit of the 500. But as long as your debits are equal your credits, you're fine, okay. And this is basically looking at the contra account. So the correspondent business ledger account, they're accounting for the total, okay. That total is made up of fees and VATs. Okay, is that okay? Is everyone happy with that first bit?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay, looking at this is example 7b. We can look at that example again if you want me to, but let's finish example A because we've got this picture. Where's the rest of A? There should be more here. Because that's B. Let's see, where's A? Is this still the Messina one? No. Oh, yeah, this is Abe.
Yeah,
Yes.
Abe.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Abe
right.
is Messina.
Okay. All right. So we're continuing here. Okay. So before we get to that bottom bit, just in terms of this exercise that they've mentioned here, so paragraph 3 and 4 in chapter 10. Can you just remind me, because you have the rest of the textbook, what is paragraph 3 and 3 and 4 in chapter 10? What does that
Have a look.
paragraph deal with? Or those paragraphs deal with? It looks like it's there's a process here. I'm just wanting to confirm what are those two paragraphs highlighting? Can you just
So it's 3 and 4.
paragraphs 3 and 4 in chapter 10, yeah.
So 3 says transactions recorded before lodgement of documents in the deeds office. Oh, I don't understand that.
No,
Where are you? Do you seeing us, Judith?
no, because I'm still trying to figure out once we've done that little exam we did, where we did this correspondent, the fees and VAT, and then she showed us how to take the third. But at the end, you've got to then pay the money to your correspondent in Messina, because I don't know how the money is coming from TCB to BCB and where they even got the final total from.
Okay.
So
I think
number 4.
yeah. Paragraph 4.
It says steps that should be followed when any matter is finalized.
Oh, all right. Okay, so they're just highlighting the steps here. Okay, that makes sense then. So there's a process that
It
needs to be
says your
followed.
withdrawal of the investment.
Okay.
The
All right,
different
but that's a bit
sections
unrelated
receive
to what we're
the
looking at here.
guarantee.
But yeah, okay, so I think it's fine. We can just use what's on screen. Okay, it's going to time out in less than a minute. Please join again with the same link.
Okay.
I'm just going to have a look at this practical exercise here when we get back, because they've got 7 steps here, and then they've shown all the different accounts. And I think this is where you're getting confused.
I'll just send you a WhatsApp.
All right, it's fine. Okay, so when looking at the practical exercise, okay, they've given you instructions here. So they said you are instructed by the correspondent, okay, the attorney in Messina. Okay, so if we go back to that diagram, okay, the correspondent is instructing you, okay, to complete the work to recover that debt that's outstanding from Abe. Okay, that was the picture we had here. Okay, there's Abe, there's the customer. Okay, so Abe is the problematic customer that the client wants us to collect money from. Okay, Messina is instructing Pretoria to do the collection. Okay, so obviously Messina is the instructing correspondent. We agree with that. Okay, they're going to be recovering 48,000, okay, from Abe Malloy on behalf of his client ABC. Okay, we've spoken about that. All right, so now we need to look at this mandate. So in executing the mandate, the following transactions occur. Okay, so this is what happened. All right, in other words, what happened here in this relationship, okay, to get the job done. In other words, to collect outstanding debt. So the first thing is you charged an instruction fee of 1,200. Okay, so if we're looking at this scenario, okay, who's charging that fee?
Sorry, who's charging the fee? The Pretoria practice is charging the fee.
Correct. Okay, so again, everything is focused on Pretoria. In other words, they're going to be accounting for what's happening in this situation. Okay, so if I'm looking at the books of Pretoria, what are they going to do? Well, the first thing is the fees journal is going to have a debit. All right. Remember, the correspondent is going to collect how much?
The correspondent wants as close to the 48. Yeah.
A third.
He's going to get a third, yes.
Okay. Subject to negotiation. All right. So it might be a third, it might be less than that, but that's something we need to consider in this situation. Okay.
Yes.
This fee is exactly what we just spoke about earlier. Here. Is that all right? Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you'll see the same thing here. They should have shown that here as well. Let's see, where's the... Okay, looks like they've omitted some of the workings. Here, they haven't shown it. Okay, here they have. There we go. Okay, there's the fees journal. All right, so I'm just highlighting what's happening so you can see it. So we just read, okay, remember those 7 steps. So we need to follow the steps. Okay, according to what happened. Okay, so the first thing that happened was a fee was paid. Okay, that fee was 1,200, right? Yes.
Yes. Or charged. Fee is charged.
Yeah, the fee was charged. Okay, that fee was charged. Okay, and that fee is being charged, all right, to the client. But because you have a correspondent here, okay, that 1,200 is going to be split. So basically,
That's
2/3 to Pretoria and 1/3 to Messina.
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at the fees journal, I'm just showing you the steps here because it looks confusing because they've given you all the instructions and then they've given you all the answers. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so if we break it down, step number 1, look at step number 1 in isolation. So forget about all the other stuff. Just look at step number 1 just to make sure you understand what's being done here. Okay, so let's just recap. When you charge a fee, okay, if you're the law practice charging the fee and you're the one doing the instructions, okay, how much can you collect?
It's the full fee.
Yeah, you collect the full fee, but it's going to be shared with the correspondent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so if you read what they've written here, the full fee is going to be debited and a portion will be shared. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, remember this fee, okay, they didn't say VAT exclusive, but we looked at the working, it was VAT exclusive. So if you take 1,200 and you multiply that by 15%, you're going to get 180. Is that okay?
Yeah. That's right.
That's VAT inclusive. VAT inclusive will be 1,380. Okay, so number 1, if you had to process this transaction, don't worry about the rest, just focus on that one, okay?
Yes.
You're then going to be recording it in the fees journal, which we saw here. There's the fees journal. Okay? Exactly the same as what we just spoke about earlier when we looked at this here, except they didn't show all these journal T accounts here. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you following? Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if you're happy with number 1, let's have a look at the sharing of the fees. So if we go look at that fees journal, let's just find it again. It's here at the bottom. Here's it. Okay. If you look at that fees journal, you'll see they've processed the transaction. Okay. If you want to maybe write a little note here, this would have been number 1. Okay, that would have been transaction 1. Transaction 1 shows the VAT, 15%, which is output VAT. Output VAT is a liability because it's payable to SARS.
Okay.
That 1,380 is the total that Pretoria is going to be receiving. Okay? And that Pretoria fee is going to be shared. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, what page is that? What page is that?
189.
Thank you.
Okay, so when looking at this fee, remember the fee is the 1,200, not the 1,380, because we spoke about the VAT. Remember, VAT is shown separately, VAT is payable to SARS. Are you with me?
Yes.
This fee is going to be shared with the correspondent. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1/3 of that fee is going to be shared with the correspondent. So, who is the correspondent in this case? Messina.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got the Pretoria office, okay, charging this fee, and having to account for this fee, okay, separately. 2/3 ultimately stay with the business. 1/3 ultimately gets paid to the correspondent because they gave them the business, basically.
And the Pretoria firm also has to pay 1/3 of the VAT.
The Pretoria, no, the VAT inputs. Okay, see this again is knowledge relating to VAT, not law. Okay, so input VAT and output VAT. Input VAT is claimed from SARS.
Yeah.
Okay, it's claimed from SARS because it reduces your output VAT. So when you're looking at, let me go back to the notes quickly and just write a note about that where we had the VAT here. There. Okay, I'm just going to put a note here. Remember, okay, VAT liability when output VAT is greater than input VAT. Okay,
Yeah.
so most businesses have a VAT liability, VAT tax return that they have to submit to SARS. Okay. If it's the opposite, if the output is greater than the input, then it's a VAT refund. Okay, but yeah, you don't really have those situations unless you're a business selling zero-rated supplies. Then you could maybe have a refund. Yeah, but most businesses, 90% of businesses will have a VAT liability. They'll have to pay SARS something. Okay, so in this situation, if I'm looking at this situation, remember Pretoria is its own business. The Pretoria office is going to be recording output VAT of 180. Okay, that 180 output VAT is going to be offset with input VAT, which is claimed because part of the fee belongs to Messina, not Pretoria. So they're going to be transferring, inverted commas, transferring that fee to the other office, to the correspondent.
Okay.
Can you see why you've got input VAT there? It's to offset the output because SARS is not going to collect 180 from Pretoria. SARS will only collect the difference from Pretoria because Pretoria paid income over to their correspondent.
Yes.
Okay, those two fee journals go together. Okay, because the one shows the sharing, the one shows the actual fee being charged.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are we happy with that first one?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to delete this stuff. Okay, let's go back to the top. Let's continue with number 2 now. Okay, now we need to look at number 2. So again, forget about number 1, forget about the rest, forget about 3, 4, and onwards. Just focus on number 2 and try to understand what's happening. Okay, so what is happening here? Someone explain it.
So you pay an agent 300. So Pretoria pays 300 Rand.
Yes.
And it's coming out of the BCB because you haven't received anything in trust.
Correct. Yeah. So in other words, this is just a normal operating expense.
We must debit the business cash book.
Correct. Yeah. The business cash book is going to be affected because this is part of the business. It's got nothing to do with the client. When I refer to the client, I'm referring to ABC.
Yeah.
Okay. So this could be like paying rent. This could be paying stationery. This could be paying whatever it is. Okay. A tracing fee is just something that the business is having to pay, okay, out of their own cash. So this would affect the business's bank accounts.
Yeah.
Not the trust. It's got nothing to do with your clients. It's your expense.
Yeah, but it's going to be paid later because this is to trace that Abe Malloy. So you've got to be reimbursed.
Yes. So we'll have to see what happens later. But for now, as long as you're comfortable with what is happening here, then that's okay. Later on, you can see the rest of the story. But are you happy with the story so far?
I am, but you know what? Could you put this in T accounts for us rather? I don't know, what do you feel?
Yeah, I can see here, you must credit the business, the BCB. You must credit the BCB because money coming out the BCB. And you must
so if we're looking at a business bank account,
You must
Okay, so
debit the
maybe just to
correspondence
recap.
business account.
Yeah, maybe just to recap some basics here. Okay, if you're looking at a business bank account, all right, the business's bank account should be an asset. An asset is a resource. Okay, then you need to apply the rules. All right, so do you know the basic accounting rules?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there's 6 rules. Let's write them down. Okay, so if you've got these, which side of your account does an asset increase on?
Debit.
Yes, on the debit side. Okay. Liability?
It is
Credit.
decreases on the debit side.
Yeah, decrease on the debit,
Increase on the credit.
Yeah.
Okay, income?
Income.
Credit. Increase on the credit side.
Good.
Yes.
Expense?
There's a thing called LACTI.
Yeah, you can use one of those acronyms to help you remember the rules.
That's
That's
the only
fine.
way I remember.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's good. So if you've used something like that, that's good. Is your assessment
Melody
open book or
taught me
closed
that.
book?
It's closed.
I've remembered LACTI now.
Okay, it's a closed book. Yeah, then you'll have to remember these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, capital and drawings?
Drawings
Capital.
is debit.
Yeah.
Drawings is a debit increase.
Yeah.
And capital?
It's a decreased capital. Credit, a decreased debit.
Credit to increase the capital.
Correct, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you need these things. Okay, those
Yeah.
things are universal. Okay, it doesn't matter what sort of accounting you're doing, all accounting needs to follow those rules. Okay, so if we're applying that rule here, because this is an asset, the debit would be a plus and the credit would be a minus. Happy.
Yes.
Okay, so if we're looking at this transaction, okay, you would be crediting the business's bank account with that fee, agent fee.
Tracing, yeah.
Okay, it's a payment.
Fee, yeah.
And then you must debit the correspondent attorney's business account.
Okay, we'll look at that now. So if you go look at the actual disbursements, okay, because this is a cash book, it's not trust, it's business. There's the, no, that's the trust ledger. There's the transfer journey. There's the business book. There's it. Okay, there's that fee that they paid. Okay, so if you wanted a T account for this, okay, you would have shown it like that, like this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. It can look like this or it can look like that. It's the same
Anthony?
thing. It's either
Can you
columns.
stop for 1 second?
Stop, yeah?
You see, this is what I kept on asking later on, if you can explain this story from TCB amount owed by the correspondent, this amount, that 3520, we had it like a test and examples. Every time I couldn't do that at all. I couldn't
Yes.
figure out how I got to the amount owed.
Okay, yeah, we need to finish the
Later.
process first before we can get to that amount. So we need to go through
Okay,
the rest of the
thanks.
transactions, and then once we reach the end, we'll get there eventually.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, as long as you're okay with everything so far,
Yes.
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get there just now. Just be a bit patient. We'll get there. But for now, we're just looking at each separate transaction. Okay, remember there's those steps from paragraph 3 and 4 of chapter 10. So those
Yeah.
steps are outlined here. Okay, to complete the process, you've got to follow those steps.
Okay.
Okay, all right, and there might be other possible like payments and things like that. This is not the only example you could get, but it's one example that you can use, that you can apply in other situations. Okay, so obviously we need to account for the fees. we need to account for any business operational expenditure, and then we need to carry on. Okay, there are different scenarios that we need to look at. Okay, so 1 and 2 happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at number 3. All right, so what are we doing here? Someone explain it. What's happening here? Like, what are we doing?
So that's fees. Issue summons and charge fees.
Okay.
It's fees you're charging to your correspondent in Messina, so you must work out the VAT on that fees.
Okay, so would you agree it's you said charging your correspondent, you mean charging your client?
Yeah.
Yeah, I call them
Because
a
the correspondent's
because
going to
that's
share
what
in this
it
fee,
says.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look at the scenario, remember that picture? We've got Pretoria. Pretoria is issuing a summons because remember, Pretoria needs to collect money from Abe. Remember that?
That's right.
Okay, remember that picture? Okay.
Yeah.
So if we
basically,
understand
we're
what's
the Pretoria
happening,
people.
this office, this
Yeah.
law office, is issuing a summons because they need to get this money from Abe, and Abe isn't
Yeah.
paying their client. All right? So this
Yeah.
fee is going to be charged to the client because it's part of what they're required to do. Okay, it's a service. Okay. Part of the law practice is they're going to issue a summons. They've issued a summons. They've done some work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're going to be charging a fee. Again, that fee needs to be shown in the fees journal. That's why they're highlighting this. It's the same as number 1. Okay, but
Yeah.
this is part of the process. In other words, part of the work that's being done. So there could be other things, but in this case, they issued a summons. They're charging a fee. Okay, because this work came from the correspondent, you're going to have to split it again.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same as 1. Happy?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so again, just to show the solution, because you have it here. Where is it? Let's find it. Where is it? Here's it here. There we go. Happy. Okay, here you would write number 3. This is transaction 3. This is transaction 3. Okay. All right. Remember we spoke about the VAT? The VAT is payable to SARS. Okay. This is Pretoria. Pretoria is going to be recording the full fee that's charged for the summons. Okay. Which is going to be the VAT exclusive plus 15%. Okay. We did calculations earlier. I'm sure it's okay now, right? 15%
Yes.
of 1,500, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
if you work that out, you get the 225. That's seen as output VAT. You have to show it separately because remember, Pretoria is going to be seen as a VAT vendor. VAT vendors need to collect VAT for SARS. This 225 needs to be shown separately because that portion is going to be paid to SARS. All right, then
Yeah.
we need to look at the correspondence. This 1,500 is going to be shared with Messina. Making sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Anthony, I just sent you a picture of how we split it. Basically, it's for every question there's 2 you'll see in the fees journal.
Okay, let me just go to your WhatsApp and just have a look.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll forward it to you too.
okay, I'm looking. Okay, what am I looking at?
So you're looking at the fees journal where you would the first one would be before the third. So you would work out your output VAT.
Okay, are you okay? This looks like a different example, but I see
No,
fees
it's a
here.
diff-
I
it
see
is
VAT.
It is a different example.
Okay.
But it shows you that she said they can either give you the fee and or the VAT inclusive fee, and then you have to work out the fee and the VAT,
Yes.
or you must add it. But and then in the so the first correspondent B138, that one is, for example, is your fee what you would the full amount that you would be debiting the correspondent, your fee and the VAT. and then it would turn around. So then you would credit correspondent fee with a third. And
Yes. Yeah, that's what they're
for
doing
every
here.
single entry, she taught us to split it like that.
Yeah, I would split it like that. It's the same thing.
Yes.
This example here is perfect. You don't have to change it any. You can leave it as is. There's nothing wrong with this. Rather just use this. This is fine. I would just use this because this is the full amount, and then you're showing the portion that's being taken out. Okay, I wouldn't offset these two. You would have to show them separately because the one is showing the sharing and the one is showing the full amount being charged. They're two separate transactions. This transaction relates to Pretoria. This transaction relates to Messina.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to show it any other way. I would show it like they've shown it here because this shows the two different journals. Journal for Pretoria, journal for Messina. Okay, but accounted for by the business.
Yeah, I don't know, Anthony. I must be honest. I think the way I've been practicing is the way I'm going to. Yeah.
Well, how would you have
anyway,
written? How would you have written this transaction using that method that you are referring to? How would you have wanted to record it?
So I would have in the first. Sorry, let me just open my phone again. So I would have said correspondent B.
Okay, let's write this
I
down
would
and
have
we can check
said-
if it's the same. No, don't say correspondent B. Tell me the names or correspondent B the
okay,
business.
so that could be a correspondent. That would be Messina attorney.
Okay, so what do you want me to do? I'm going to type it in. Debit what? Correspondence?
So that would be the 1725. And then the fees, journal credit 15.
Okay, but you're basically reading this out. It's the same.
Yeah, I know. I'm just but then I would do it copy and paste, reverse the 3 and then a third.
Yes, there's the debit fees, there's the VAT input, and then you're basically saying exactly what's here. Yeah,
it is the same.
It is the same. Yeah, so I don't know.
Sorry, I just had to wrap my head around the different look.
When you say different look, it's the same look. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I know it's the same in essence.
Okay, all right, because remember this is Pretoria, this is Messina.
Yeah.
Okay, Messina is getting a third of Pretoria's fees. This is important because the fees are always excluding VAT. You can't take a third of that.
Yes.
Okay, because remember, the fees are excluding VAT. So the VAT needs to be shown separately. Because remember, you'll have SARS here and you'll have SARS there. Yeah. Here you'll get to claim, here you'll get to pay. But you have to show both. Yeah, you have to show this is for 3 and that's for 3. Okay. All right. Is 3 fine?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that we've done that, we can tick that one off the list. Okay. Now we're getting to the actual collection now.
Yes.
All right. So finally, the actual client. Okay. When I say client, let me rephrase. The customer. Okay. The customer has now actually decided to pay the outstanding debt.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So that goes into the TCB.
Why?
Because that's now trust money.
Why?
It's not my money. It's money that's going to have to be paid over again.
To ABC, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. ABC is your client. Okay. Remember that picture?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can, try draw a little picture, especially with these law things. These law things are quite complicated because of all these different parties. Like if you don't draw this, you can get very confused very quickly.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so now you know, okay, what's happening here? Abe is actually paying the instructed, or yeah,
Yes.
the correspondent, the person that's being instructed to collect the fees outstanding or to collect outstanding debts. Okay, so do you agree?
Yes.
Pretoria is receiving 48,000.
Yes.
Pretoria is going to record that in the trust cash book because it's not their money, it's actually belonging to the client, but the client of their correspondent.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so again, just to show this working in the actual books of the business, there should be a trust
TCB.
cash book. Yes, here's it here. There's the trust
Yeah.
cash book. And there's the 48,000.
Yes.
All right, making sense.
Yes.
Okay, don't worry about the other stuff. Just
Yes,
look at that for now. The rest we'll get
Yes.
to eventually, but just understand
Yes.
what happens on transaction number 4.
Okay. Got
Trust
it. No, it's
cash
easy.
receipts journal, because it belongs to the client, not any of the law firms.
Yes.
Okay, easy one there, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now we need to go and we need to look at the commission. Okay. All right, number 5 says.
Can I just stop you? For every debit, there's always a credit.
Yes.
So I'm going to credit.
Yeah, you'll credit it'll be a payable to the client. So where's the
BCB,
payable to the client?
The correspondent business account needs to be credited.
Hold on, let's just see here. Let's look for it. Have they shown any T accounts? Okay, no, that's the end of it. So, okay, they might not have shown that part, but they've shown the totals here in this, in here in the ledger.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
All right, so in the ledger, remember, let me write some notes here. Whose books are these?
this is Pretoria.
Yes. Okay. Who must Pretoria pay?
Messina.
No. Oh, yes. Well, yeah, the correspondent, Messina, you're right. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the correspondent. The correspondent is Messina, so you're right. Okay. Remember, if you think back to, Melanie spoke about accounting from UNISA, okay? And at UNISA, you did a course, and I think there was a law practitioner course, and when you collect money from the client, okay, what do? The business bank account, has 0, nothing. The trust bank account would have had the money. So the trust bank account would have had whatever. Let's use this example, 48,000.
Yeah.
Okay? But then you would have had a trust creditors account.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you've done any accounting at UNISA before and it's law, they used to call it trust creditors. Creditors because you still owe them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's trust creditors because every debit has a credit. So the 48,000 has to be recorded there.
That's right.
Okay, but in this situation, you don't have that because what do you have here? You have a correspondent. Do you see that?
Yes.
So
that would be the correspondent account.
Yes, it'll be a correspondent inverted commas creditors account. Does it make sense?
That's right.
Okay, instead of a trust creditors client account. Make sense?
Yes.
Because you've got this middle person involved.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we've got nothing to do with the correspondent paying client.
Correct.
That transaction. So
yes, Messina's going to sort that out.
Ends with the correspondent. That's our client as such.
Exactly. Yeah. So remember, Messina is going to be responsible for completing the rest of the transaction. In other words, the rest of the stuff.
Yes.
Because remember, the client is ultimately paying the fees for both of these people.
Yes.
Making sense?
Yes.
Okay. So remember, later on, you will look at what's going to happen here because the correspondent will have to account for that themselves, but you're going to show that just to show. So it's like a reconciliation because what you have here and what they have there needs to correspond.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So where were we? Okay, we did number 5. Let's go back. Are you happy with that bit?
Yes. Are you still with us, Judith?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5 done. Let's look at number 6. All right. Number 6 is just look at the VAT. Okay, we've actually spoken about that. Looks like they have given you a chapter on VAT as well here. They're probably going to revise the input, output, all of that, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming here. Is chapter 7 VAT? What is chapter 7?
You want me to check quickly? Let me check for you, Anthony.
Yeah, what is chapter 7, the focus, yeah? It's probably VAT.
Yeah, it must be VAT. Yeah, VAT.
Okay, input, output, all of that, right?
Input, output, yeah.
Yes,
And then what did
okay.
they refer for? Example 38.
Yeah, that'll just be the offsetting. So the control account for VAT. I don't know if they've shown that here. Let's see if they have.
Yeah, we have to have a
yes,
VAT
they have.
account.
Here's it. There we go. There. Input, output. There we go. Okay. Is that all right?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
happy.
All right, let's go back. Next thing. Okay, this is the usual 1/3 sharing of fees allowable is applicable. Okay, that we spoke about. And then we've looked at the sharing. Okay, so those are the 7 transactions they've highlighted there. Okay, now we need to look at the things that haven't been covered yet. Okay, so BCB amount owed by the correspondent. Okay, we haven't discussed that yet. We need to look at it. Okay. The correspondent trust account, we spoke about the 48,000. Okay.
That's
we still need
right.
to look at the rest. Okay. When you're looking at the transferred amount, okay, here, the transfer journal, okay, that's something we need to look at.
Yes,
And
please.
okay, the business banking account, we spoke about the 300. We haven't looked at this 3,520. Okay, the correspondent business ledger account. This is where you're going to calculate the 3520. Okay, so whose correspondent account is this?
This is the one we are sending Messina.
Yeah, so this is Messina's view.
Victoria sending Messina.
Yeah, so this is basically what Messina is going to be looking at in terms of their like summary. Okay, so earlier we spoke about the fees. That was the 1,200 plus the 818. Okay, there was
right.
1,500 plus the 225, right?
That's right.
Okay, then you had the tracing fee, which we spoke about. Okay, they've split it. There's the split. There's the split. So those figures are all fine. Those figures are fine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This commission. Did they talk about the commission here?
Yeah, I think
No, doesn't look like it. Yeah, looks like they've omitted something. How much commission would you earn on this? What does the legislation say? Sorry, I'm not familiar with the commission.
I think it's 1,500 rand. Judith, what was that capped amount? Was it
Yeah,
a
so I think that's a maximum or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to help me with that. What is the commission amount that you can charge?
Either 33 and a third or 1.5. So that would be 1.5 plus VAT, yeah.
Is that the max? Is that legislation?
That would be that collection amount plus VAT.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.5 plus VAT.
All right. So that's by law, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. So 1,500 plus 225 VAT. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an additional collection commission, and that's the
Yes.
commission that Pretoria is going to enjoy for doing this work. Agree?
Yeah, I think we're also going to split that.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So the 1/3, same as before, split
Yes.
it. All right. Are you happy with all
Yeah.
those figures?
Yes.
Okay. So remember, you've got Pretoria and you've got Messina, hey?
Yes.
Okay, there's going to be a difference that we're going to calculate. All right, it's going to time out again, so I think we might have to wait for the timeout and then continue with this discussion. Is everyone happy with what we've got here?
Yes.
Okay, it's important that you understand this correspondent business ledger account because that's how you get the difference.
That's right.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, good. Okay, let's just pause for a few seconds. It's going to time. I'm just going to pause the video recording here. All right, perfect. So as long as you can understand this summary, okay, this summary is going to help you calculate that missing figure. Okay, so we spoke about...
Sorry, Anthony, before you depart, this total debits, this 5130, and then credits 1610. What is that?
They're totals.
Okay.
They're totals.
Okay, so if you add all the debits, it's 5130, correct?
Yes.
You add the credits, it's 1610, correct?
Yes.
So now the difference
Yes.
is that 520.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. Okay,
Got
then
it.
we subtract those two figures and we get 3520.
Yes.
But what does it say now from Correspondence Trust? Because we're in a business ledger.
Okay,
Trust
remember?
ledger.
Okay, remember, we're looking at this relationship between Pretoria and Messina. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where's that picture? Let me go put that picture back up. Okay. Remember, you have a situation where... Let me just bring it down so you can see the workings there. Okay. Remember, you have a situation where your client ABC, okay, asked their attorney, okay, in Messina to help collect debts from an outstanding customer, Abe. Okay? Because they were situated in Messina, there was no way this attorney was going to be able to collect the outstanding debt. So they had to, okay, correspond with the Pretoria practice in order to get the client's work done. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay? All those fees that were charged, etc., okay, were accounted for. All right, this law practice, they've shown, okay, what they have in terms of fees and what Messina will get in terms of the correspondence. Okay, remember, who pays these fees?
Abe.
ABC. No, not Abe. ABC pays the fees. ABC.
Yeah.
ABC
Yes,
pays the
yes.
fees.
Yes,
Abe
that's
is the
right.
customer.
Yeah,
Abe is paying debts. All right. Abe is ultimately going to pay the client, but the client needs help to collect the outstanding debts. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so those legal fees, the legal fees that are payable to Pretoria and the legal fees that are payable to the correspondent, all are paid by the client. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
This client is going to have to make sure that all the legal practices are paid. This client doesn't know anything about the Pretoria legal practice. The client is going to pay the correspondent the total in terms of fees, and the correspondent is going to have to pay the Pretoria office a part of the fees. Does that make sense? That's why you have this credit here for 3,520. Because that's the difference that Messina is ultimately going to have to be paying Pretoria.
Okay, but it says they credit. So must you now credit the Correspondence Trust ledger account?
Okay, we'll look at that T account just to confirm. Okay, but remember, this is a debit and a credit. So this could have been a T account that would have looked like this. Correspondent business ledger account.
Yeah.
Okay. These debits would have been on this side. So you would have had, 5130. On this side, you would have had 1610. Then if you balanced it off, you would have had the 5130. Then you would have had a balance brought down, carried down of 3520, 3520. Does that make sense?
So does this mean that you've actually got a
Close it off.
debit?
Yeah, you're closing off this account basically.
Yes. But do you have a debit balance in your Correspondents business ledger account?
Well, if you're looking at this T account, those debits are more than those credits.
More?
So the
what
balance
does that
in
mean?
this account would be a debit balance.
So okay, so
To close off this account, to end this account, remember, this account shouldn't exist because it's a working account.
Yeah.
It's a working account between you and your correspondent. That's it. So in actual fact, this account is zero at the end after you've paid the one party off. So this 3,520 is payable, and this will close off that account.
But this, in essence, does this mean that you owing your correspondent attorney that 3,520?
Well,
Yeah.
remember, it depends on
That's
whose
what it
practice
is.
you're looking at. This money is going to be coming from the client. The client is going to give money to the correspondent. The correspondent is going to be giving money to the practice for paying them for the fees. It could come out of this portion, but we'll have to check and see.
But ultimately, that 3520 needs to come from your TCB, needs to go to the correspondent. We'll have to look at the TCB.
If it's the
You have to
trust,
pay
if
your
the trust is
correspondent.
paying for it, then that's correct, yeah. Because the trust bank account would basically be offsetting or paying off fees. Yes, does that make sense?
Because why does it say from correspondent trust ledger account? Why do they use the word from correspondent? Sounds like it's coming
You've
from
got to
them.
go. You've got
It
to go
is,
to
it
that
is.
account.
Because remember, the correspondent, okay, that's the correspondent. That's the trust. That's the trust creditors. Does that make sense?
You see, they all have got one. You like in a normal thing, your client has got a trust account and a business account, and you've got a trust account. So, yeah, it's so.
That's the problem, is transferring this money from the one trust account to the business
Yeah.
account you pay. That's why I said it. I
Yeah.
never
Well,
get-
remember, okay, let's look at the rest, and then maybe it'll make more sense. But
Okay,
I'm just showing the picture here because
yeah. Now, I
remember, it's
understand
the
this
client
part.
that's ultimately responsible for the fees for both the correspondent and the
Yeah.
instructing attorney,
you've
the instructing
incurred all
attorney
the
and the
costs.
instructed attorney. Both of
Yeah,
them are
you've incurred
correspondents.
the costs, the tracing, the sheriff, blah, blah, all of that. You've
Yeah, the
incurred-
client would be liable for those costs. Okay, can I delete all this?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's look at the last bit, and hopefully that will address the questions. Okay, so this is the working to calculate that difference. Okay, remember earlier we spoke about, let me go back here. Remember earlier we spoke about the money that's going to be paid to the client. This is going to be recovered, and this is going to be paid over to the client, ABC. ABC, remember, ABC is going to be collecting outstanding debts. Okay, maybe what they agreed here. So I don't see, like in the actual trust cash book, I don't see any opening balance.
No.
So that tells
money
me
came in
that the
later.
client didn't pay anything. The client is only going to pay fees out of what they collect. So this could have been an arrangement where AB says, okay, I want an attorney, and I want a good attorney, and I want a good attorney that will only get paid after they've collected. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because no business is going to want to pay money to try to recover debt that they're not going to get. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if ABC goes to, let's just say, XYZ attorneys or lawyers, whatever, okay, and they're bad, okay, if they're going to give their money, they go through all the legal process and they're not going to collect anything, ABC is even in worse debt because now they haven't just lost Abe, their customer, now they've
Yes.
also
They've
lost
also
money
gotta
that
pay
they've got
fees.
to try get lawyers to recover the outstanding debt. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so practically, ABC, if they were clever, they would have said, well, we're not going to pay you anything in the trust cash book. The balance is going to be 0. You are going to do the work as our attorneys, and because you've got a good track record, you should collect the outstanding money. Once you've collected the outstanding money, now we're going to pay you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. They could have skipped the whole correspondence thing, but you see, clients don't know that. They just go to the closest attorney to help them.
Okay. It's interesting,
So
hey?
that 3520 is now
Is now
the
taken
deducted
out
fee.
of the client's
They-
money in
yeah,
their trust
yeah.
account
So-
that was collected from this whole legal process.
Yeah. So they're going to get 48 less what's
Exactly.
due to me.
Yeah,
Or due to Victoria.
remember, these are the books of Pretoria. Okay, so Pretoria is going to pay Messina
Yeah.
the 44,480. Because remember, Pretoria is not going to pay the whole amount of 48 to Messina, then Messina's not going to pay them back their fees. They're just going to keep the
Exactly.
fee, they're going to keep what's theirs and pay out the difference.
Different, yeah.
Does that make sense? Can you see the picture?
Yes. Yes.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So,
Okay, can I explain it here quickly? A quick summary.
Yes.
Okay, let's do it quick here. I'm trying to move this up so there's more space. Okay, so this is the story. Here's the picture. This is what happened. Okay, client Abe was a bad client. 48,000 Rand was outstanding because they had purchased products and services from ABC Limited, the company. This company was irritated, upset, angry that the client or their customer wasn't able to pay. So eventually, what did they do? They decided to take legal action. Okay? They found an attorney in Messina that they trust because maybe they deal with them a lot and they trust that they can do the work. And they said, we're not going to pay you a cent. We're already negative 48,000 because this customer hasn't paid us a cent. And now that's affecting our cash flow. We want you to collect this money from them. Okay? And whatever money you collect from them, right, you're going to earn fees, you're going to keep fees, you're going to collect fees. So the correspondent's going to think, well, can we collect they're going to look at the case, they're going to think, well, can we win this case? They're going to look at the case and they're going to say, yes, we can win this case. But the problem is, this customer is sitting in Pretoria.
Yeah.
So now we need the Pretoria practice to help us do our job so we can make some money here. Okay? They're going to go to this Pretoria office and they're going to say, well, can you guys go and collect the 48 from them? Okay? After you collect the 48,000 from them, and this is where the money flows. So the money flowed from Abe to the correspondents.
Yeah.
This 48,000, this law office, they're not going to wait for the correspondent to pay them. They're going to keep their fees, and those are their fees. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the Pretoria office keeps the 3,520. They keep what's due to them. And then they pay the correspondent the rest. And then the correspondent, okay, obviously gets their third of the fees. And then they pay the client the difference, whatever's left over. Does that make sense? Can you see the picture?
Yes. Yes.
And that's basically what happened here. Okay, so
Got it.
the diagram is so important. And that's why when I do these types of situations, you've got to draw a picture. Otherwise, you're explaining things again and again and again. But if you've got this picture, you can see it and like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, are we happy?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and that's basically how you landed up with this. And then just to show the rest, this is the correspondent trust ledger account. So remember, this is the trust cash book. This is client money, hey? This is look at the correspondent. In other words, money that this business is going to pay to the Messina branch. Okay, and that's why they need to account for this, because everything, all of these amounts need to come out to zero. This needs to be closed off. That needs to be closed off. Okay, it all needs to be closed off because there shouldn't be anything left over. Right, all the parties need to get paid their fair share, and then the end.
Okay.
Yes.
Now it's going.
Okay. All right, I think I've covered everything. Okay, there's the transfer journal. The transfer journal is purely between the trust and the business because remember, part of the money is going to be kept by the Pretoria branch, and then the rest is kept. Not the rest is kept, the rest is paid. Okay, so the transfer journal is purely internal. Again, it's just something that it's purely an accounting entry. The accountant would process this just to make sure the book's balanced. That's all.
So is this because then everything must go to naught at the end?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. If you don't land up with zero, then there's a problem somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. That's the nice thing about these things. It always needs to balance.
You see that you're going from the correspondence, trust ledger, correspondence business.
Yeah, it's just an offset. You're offsetting the trust because the trust is the client's money with the business's ledger account, because the business ledger account will have an outstanding amount, because remember, they're doing the work, they're entitled to their fees. So they need to get that 3,520. They're going to keep that, and then the rest is paid over.
Okay, so this is the Pretoria. This is Pretoria's money.
Yeah, this is all Pretoria's books. Yeah.
Okay.
That's their transfer journal, yeah.
And Messina will get that money minus that amount that guy paid, Arbor person, minus that. Okay.
Yeah, well,
so that,
yes. So the correspondent, if we go back to this.
You must get that 44.
Yeah, the correspondent will keep their 1/3 in fees, and then whatever's left over, the client gets that.
Yeah.
And they might even show that here. Let's see. They probably do. Let's see. Doesn't look like it. Oh, no, here, yeah, they do.
You see, at the end, you have to do some statement as well.
Yes. Okay, yeah, this is the statement to the correspondent in Messina regarding, okay, the legal work that was done, okay, on behalf of ABC for their benefit against the client in terms of the collection. All right, so if I just walk through what happened here. Okay, so do you agree? These fees, okay, were taken by Pretoria.
Yeah.
This was Messina's fees.
Yeah, that's 1/3.
This is something that was paid. This was a business. This was an expense.
The tracing, yes, the tracing.
Yeah.
That was Pretoria fees again.
Yeah, the summons.
This was the sharing of the fees, Messina.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the attorneys got very happy when they won the case, or when they got the money. Okay. 48 came in. Everyone's happy. All right.
So
now
that person who owed money paid 48.
Basically, yes. Okay, money came in from the debtor. Okay, everybody's happy now. Remember, the client's happy, the attorneys are happy, because now they're all going to get paid out a portion of it.
Okay.
Okay. Obviously, the commission goes to who? Pretoria. Okay. And then Messina and the client. This is Messina. Ooh, let me just change this color. Okay. That's Messina. That's Pretoria. Okay. And then they need to look at the amount of fees that they charge. So Messina is going to take all their fees. Okay. And then the balance is paid to the client. Okay. And that's why we've got a proof of EFT.
Is that the money you to
Messina?
Messina.
The EFT. Okay, that's okay.
Okay, and then Messina is going to do their own calculations to pay their client, which is ABC. Remember, you're looking at this account statement from who? Pretoria. Okay, because remember, what was the heading of this chapter? Receiving instructions from clients who are legal practitioners. You are Pretoria. So if you were Pretoria, this is what you would have to do in your accounting records in the attorney's practice, okay, to ultimately get to a situation where you have settled this case and you can pay out the correspondent, Messina. Because remember, this is where your work ends. This is where your job ends. Your job ends here. Pretoria, responsibility, done. Case closed. Any questions?
No, I see where this is now.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Right, how are we doing? Are we still okay? Do we need a quick 5-minute break before we go through the next section?
Maybe a 2-minute break?
Okay, yeah, I don't
Okay.
mind. I don't mind the extra 5 minutes. We'll still have the full 3 hours, but if you just want to maybe take a quick 5-minute break, just to pause,
Thank you.
refresh, get
Yes.
some coffee or something before we
Thanks
start a
very
brand new
much.
chapter. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right, I'm
the
going to
other
stop the
thing-
video as well. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right, so just before the break, we were looking at chapter 11. Okay, chapter 11.
Yeah.
The focus is important. So that diagram that I had here, it's important, okay? And I'm going to just copy paste it because you're going to look at a similar situation now, okay? But that was, so this was chapter, let me just put a heading here. This was chapter 11, okay? You don't have to worry about these diagrams. I will email you the Excel spreadsheets after
you.
the class, so you'll have this, so you
Sure.
don't have to stress. I'm just going to put a note here, NB. Okay, this is law practice, getting instructions,
Yeah.
or receiving. That's important, receiving instructions. All right, so you're looking at things from that perspective. I'm going to change this whole block. All right, so that was before the break. Okay, so before the break, chapter 11, you were focusing on perspective from that law practice's point of view. Okay, obviously chapter 12 now is looking at giving the instructions. Okay, so let me go back to that chapter. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what we're looking at now. Right, so a bit different, but context in terms of what's happening, it's exactly the same. The only difference is now we're looking at the actual instructing attorney. So if we're giving instructions to our correspondents. So if I'm looking at, let's just copy paste this. Same situation here. I'm just going to move that to the middle. Okay. When you're looking at context, okay, chapter 12 is focusing on the law practice giving instructions. All right, so now we're going to remove this block, and that block's going to go
That way.
over here. Okay, so now we've got the correspondent there, and we've got the law practice there. Okay, so things are a little bit different. I'm going to delete the other stuff. We don't need that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to leave that there just to give context. All right, so earlier we were looking at this side of the diagram. Okay, now we're looking at this side of the diagram. Okay, and obviously this side of the diagram is a bit more tricky because remember, you've got the clients, okay, and you've got the correspondence.
Sorry.
Okay, Shane, you've got some pets there in the background, hey? Okay. All right. So just be careful. When looking at this particular chapter, the only reason why chapter 12 is after chapter 11 is because you actually need to look at both sides. Okay, you need to look at the correspondence and you need to look at the client because you're doing the accounting in between. Okay, earlier before the break, in chapter 11, okay, once you have sent a statement to, so for example, if we just go back here, once you, as the accounting practice, once you've sent your statement through to the correspondent, that's the end. Okay, that's the end of the actual
Yes.
work or service. All right. The challenge comes in here because now you're looking at two relationships. You've got the correspondent and you've got the client, and you need to account for both basically. Okay, so that's the context. All right, the context is key. In whatever example they give us here, we'll relate it back to the diagram. Okay, so I think I will delete some of this. We might have a slightly different situation. Okay, all right. Let's leave it like that. Okay. All right, so introduction. I assume the introduction is fine. I'm going to rather jump to the example, if that's okay with everyone.
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's look at example 48. Okay, let's draw a picture as well. They've given you a nice diagram. Okay, we just need to add to it in terms of detail. Okay, so in this scenario, a client in Pretoria. Okay, so the client is in Pretoria. The client's name, Mr. Yellow. Okay. They're instructing an attorney in Pretoria. So your practice is in Pretoria. Okay. To collect and recover 28,000 from a debtor residing in Messina, Mr. Green. Okay, so we have another debt collection scenario. Okay, we've got a client, a customer, Mr. Green. Okay, this customer is Mr. Yellow's customer. Okay, and Green is in Messina. Okay, for jurisdictional reasons, the attorney in Pretoria cannot attend to and finalize the matter. Obviously, they can't help their client, unfortunately, but they want to help their client. So the only way they can is by getting a correspondent involved. All right, so from this example, the attorney in Pretoria becomes the instructing attorney. That's what we've got here. And they will not attend to the matter. The attorney in Messina becomes the instructed attorney and will attend and finalize the matter. So now you have this attorney, Messina law firm, and they're basically going to take on this case. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we've read all of that. The attorney Messina will collect, so obviously they will collect from Mr. Green. Okay. All right, I think the rest is fine. I don't think we need to go through all of that, and then we can look at the practical exercise. Okay. Okay, maybe there is just a note here. I see they bring up those paragraphs again. Maybe just in terms of revision, if you do have time before your assessment, it might not be a bad idea to go back and look at these principles set out in paragraph 3 and 4 in chapter 10. Because it's come up twice now in chapter 11 and 12, I do think it's quite important. So maybe look at it again if you haven't looked at it, because it's being highlighted again here. Then we've got a practical exercise. Okay, you receive the following statement from your correspondent. Okay, the attorney Messina. So again, perspective is everything. Let's put a block around here. Accounting from this business's perspective. Okay. Is scope okay? Everyone happy with what we're dealing with?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we've got yellow versus green. Obviously, that's the case that we need to attend to. You've got these two attorneys helping that client sort out this issue. Okay. All right. So there's fees here. Okay. Summons fee. There's VAT. Paid the sheriff. Okay, cash statement. Okay, remember who's getting this information?
We are the yellow.
Exactly. And it's coming from
Yeah.
the correspondent. Okay, remember this thing that we saw earlier? This thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
basically what you're getting.
That.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, we're
Okay,
getting this.
so when looking at chapter 11, chapter 11 is from the person, not the person, the party, the law firm that's getting the instruction, that's
Yes.
receiving the instructions. Okay, here we're giving the instructions, all right? So we're basically continuing where this correspondent left
That's
off.
right.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
That's why
Yes.
you've got this whole thing here. Everyone following?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
NB, you get a statement from the correspondent
In the senior.
after the job has been done, after the work has been completed. Okay, so remember they had to go do all the legal work, okay, and you're just going to be getting a fee, okay, a portion, a slice of the fee based on what was done. Obviously, the correspondent would have given you this, okay, now your job is to record what they've provided, okay, all right, because you have to account for what has taken place with your clients. Right, so now you're going to have a business accounts, bank accounts. Okay, and the business bank account obviously represents the Pretoria practice. Okay, and then the client is going to have a trust client account. Okay, and that trust client account would be the trust account or business bank, trust bank accounts for the client. Trust bank account for the client. Okay. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, so you've got the summons fee, you've got the VAT, you've got the sheriff, cash payments. Okay, that was green. Okay. All right, so green paid 28,000 that was owed. Okay, remember they were suing for that. Yeah, they were recovering 28,000 from green. Okay, so that makes sense. You've got the commission. Okay, and then you've got the VAT. So there's the VAT. Okay, on the commission, right? And obviously that portion belongs to the correspondent. Okay, so basically you have correspondent and business practice all in one here. Okay, and you're going to be taking that information to record it. Okay, and you have to prepare an accounting statement for your clients. All right, so your correspondent statement, okay, is going to be used to create your client statement. Okay, so how to answer the practical exercise. Change the format of the question to a proper accounting statement. Okay, so they've done that. Remember, this doesn't look as nice as that.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is just get the layout right, and that's what they've asked you to do. Okay, draw it up nicely, show everything perfectly. Okay, you've got the debit column and you've got the credit column. Okay. All right, then they say record the above transactions on the accounting statements. The following steps should be applied. Okay, the nice thing about following steps is you can't go wrong. Okay, so sometimes you'll need all of them, sometimes you might not, but just follow the steps because it works, and then you can't go wrong. And also, in terms of exam technique, you're building or you're collecting marks in your exam. Okay, so even though you don't finish the exam question, maybe you get through like 70%, 80% of it. Okay, you'll still get marks, but you won't get all the marks, but at least you'll pass the exam. Okay, so don't try to do everything in one go. Take it step by step. You saw how I did chapter 11. Each transaction separately, analyze it, then process it, and then continue. If you try to do too much in one go, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to get confusing. Okay. Right. So the first thing we need to do is we need to show the EFT amount. Okay. That's important. All right. So remember, sometimes you might get money from your client ahead of time. Sometimes you might not. Here they said, The EFT amount was the amount that you received from your correspondent in Messina. Okay. So what can you tell me about this amount? What is that amount representing?
It's the attorney's amount. It's the client's amount plus fees
Whose fees?
that a yellow attorney needs to keep
Correct. Yeah. So basically, the correspondent
back. Yeah.
pays the net amount. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, the net amount after their fees. So obviously they keep their fees, right? They don't pay the full amount to that attorney, they pay the net amount. Now they've got to account for everything in their practice based on that amount. Okay, because the correspondent would have given them the statement, and that statement would have already shown the actual amount, the offsetting of their fees, because they would have kept all their fees. That's basically what they kept. That's the cash they collected, and obviously the EFT is how much they paid. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so the net amount is the first thing you need to record. Can someone tell me why you're going to put that into the trust cash book?
Yeah, it's got to go through because it's got to be paid from the trust account. It was paid into your trust.
No, whose money is this?
It's the one that you're going to pay your client that
Yes.
you've collected.
Yeah, it's the client's money.
Correct. It's the client's money. So that's why you use the trust cash book, because it's the client's money. Client's money is recorded in the trust cash book.
Yes.
Okay, it's not a business cash receipt. If it's business, it belongs to attorney was it Pretoria? Yeah, attorney Pretoria, the yellow attorney.
Yes.
Okay, it's trust because it's the client's money. That's why it's the trust cash book. Why do we credit the correspondent trust ledger account? Anyone know?
Because that's he's a debtor, a trust debtor.
Yes, so you're basically offsetting this account. Okay, you're offsetting what was owed or what was. So remember, there's a relationship here between those two law firms. Okay, those books need to balance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so when you get a statement from the correspondent, whatever the statement says needs to match what you have in your books. And that's why you're crediting the correspondent trust ledger account to make sure that those amounts, the amount that's available is offset with what is being collected, basically.
Okay.
Okay, so let's have a look and check what they've done. So you should see that here in the receipts. There we go. Okay, there's the receipt. That's fine. Okay, I like this example a lot better than the other one. Chapter 11 didn't show the steps. Chapter 12 does.
Yes.
Okay, this is a lot better to follow, a lot easier to follow, and maybe you've gone through this as well. So I know
you can see
some of you had some
debit and
questions
credit.
earlier. Sorry, say again.
Because you can see a debit and you can see the credit for the same amount. So my brain
Yes.
can understand. Oh, there's a debit and there's the
Yeah.
credit going.
The trust ledger.
Yeah, remember this is the client's money, the trust cash book.
Yeah.
Client's money, okay?
Yeah.
And then obviously the correspondent trust ledger account. This will balance out, okay? That's why we have this credit, okay? And that credit is going to be offset with all those debits that we're going to process. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's step number 1. Happy with step number 1?
Yes.
Okay, it's an easy step. It comes from the statement that you get from your correspondent. There's the figure. Step number 2, the collected amount. All right, so how much money did the correspondent collect? Remember, that full amount, even though that full amount was collected by, let me go back. Even though that the full amount was collected by the correspondent, but who does that amount actually belong to?
Belongs to the client minus
Exactly.
the fees of the practice.
Yes. Okay, so can the Pretoria office show the client a net amount. They have to show them the full amount. Because remember, the client entered into an agreement knowing that there was 28,000 outstanding.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
now,
they should-
if you don't account for the full amount, the client is going to say, well, what happened to the difference? So the Pretoria law practice needs to show the client that they needed help and the correspondent was helping them to collect the money that was outstanding. Does that make sense? Are you following?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why you have to show the full amount, but the net amount is going to be shown, and that's why there's a difference. Okay, so once you know what the full amount is, then it's easy to offset the two amounts. Okay, we just saw this. Debit trust cash book, credit correspondent trust ledger account. Okay, it's trust because it's the client's money. All right, here we're showing how much money we got from the correspondent, which was the full amount. Agree?
Yes.
Okay, so that full amount is going to be debited against the trust ledger account and credited against the client trust ledger account. Right, so maybe before we move on, can someone answer this question? Why do you use the trust ledger account? What's the reason behind that? If you know your debits and credits, if you know your rules, you'll be able to address it. Okay, remember this is a working account. What is this account viewed as?
It's trust ledger accounts. That the client's, it's a business account.
No, it's a client. This is a liability account.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
because remember, what did we say here? We're collecting 28,000. Who does that 28,000 actually belong to? The client.
The client.
So this is seen almost like trust creditors. Kind of,
Okay.
similar to that. I'm just changing the vocabulary just to make sure you understand this concept of a liability. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It's money that has to go out, money that is owed.
Correct. Yeah, it's money that's waiting to
Ultimately.
be paid out of the business's
Yes.
trust account. Yes. Okay, good. Okay, second step, we've completed. Third step, cost. Okay, cost should be quite easy, right?
Yes.
Okay, because remember, so those costs, not all of the costs, but some of the costs, all the costs generally will have VAT. Okay, if VAT is applicable, you need to show VAT separately because of the input-output. Okay,
Yes.
but some expenses or some costs will be the businesses. Okay, and other costs will be the clients, right? Because this was debt and this was a recovery of outstanding debt, most of the costs are probably going to be for the client's bill. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, because obviously the client is going to have to pay for the cost of collecting the outstanding debt. But remember, that's going to come out of the amount of money that was collected from the customer. Okay, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you with me? Everyone okay with the story that we're painting, the picture that we're painting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm getting an idea.
Okay. All right. The picture's a bit different because remember, you're looking at it from the middle. So you're looking left and then you're looking right. Okay, just keep that in mind when you're dealing with these different topics. Okay. All right, let's have a look at the costs. The costs are a bit more complicated because we need to show them, okay, against the client trust account. Notice you had a credit here and you had a debit here. Why are you debiting their accounts? We just spoke about it. Anyone know?
The costs that need to come off.
Exactly.
The amount.
Of whose amount?
The client's
The
amount.
client's amount, yes. Okay, and that's why all those fees, you don't show them separately, you just group them as one account because remember the client will get a statement and the client's account, their T account. Remember that T account? Okay, there'll be debits, there'll be credits, and it's going to land up basically with one amount and zero balance.
Yes.
Okay, that's why you have to offset these figures and everything needs to balance. Right, and those are the costs. Right, so client gets money, there's receipts, and client has to pay money. There's payments. Okay, you don't have a client receipts and payments account. The client's receipts and payments are shown in the trust ledger account. Does that make sense? This is revision.
Yes.
This should be basics that you've seen before.
Yes.
Okay. And then the correspondent account needs to be credited because remember, The correspondent statement shows all the costs that were provided for by the attorneys, the firm that actually did the work. Because remember, in this relationship here,
Yeah.
this Pretoria office actually did nothing. The only thing that they need to do is do the accounting. That's all. This
Yes.
office had to do all the legal work. This office literally just referred them. Obviously, they're going to get 2/3, but they're still going to get a third for the referral. And then they just need to
Yes.
send a statement to the client, and that's their job done.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's why you have to look at both sides, because you have an obligation here in terms of the books, okay, the recording of the accounting records, and you have an obligation on this side in terms of the books, making sure that because you're the middle person, okay, and because lawyers need to be trusted, okay, you have to prove that everything balances, okay, because the client needs to make sure that they know explicitly where all this money went to, because the client's not going to get 28,000, they're going to get 28 minus costs. Okay. All right. So it's a nice picture, and I'm sure it's a lot easier to follow now because we've covered chapter 11. Chapter 11 painted the picture. Chapter 12 is just continuing, but looking at this part of the diagram.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if we look at the costs, let's go and look at those two things together. We've spoken about those two accounts. You'll see they're exactly the same. Do you see that? They're just opposite. You're
Yes.
debiting this account, you're crediting that account. You're debiting this account, you're crediting that account. Do you see that?
Yes.
And because
Okay.
you're doing that, you're going to see a net amount. There's going to be a balance that's going to be
Difference.
a difference. Correct. Okay, so we've discussed step 2 and 3. Let's look at the working, just so you can see it. Maybe let me just go up quickly. Okay, the summons fee, you're going to see it. The sheriff fee, you're going to see it. The commission. Okay, all the fees, you're going to see it. Okay, let's have a look. There we go. The correspondence trust ledger account. Okay, there's the total amount that they received. Okay, there's the total amount that they received. There's the debit, there's the credits. Okay,
Okay.
then we need to look at the fees. There should be a
Costs.
fees journal here somewhere. Where is it? There. Okay, no. Okay, there's the VAT. Okay, there's the correspondent fees. That was for the commission, I think.
Yes.
Let's go back and check that. What was the commission? Was 1,500? Yeah, 1,500 plus 225. Yeah, that's right. Okay, the commission. Okay, and then all the separate fees. 3,000 and 500. Okay, so 3,000 plus 500. 3,500. That should be. This should be. Where's the total? 3,500. Looks like they've added all of it together. Transfer costs. I think they've added more of these together instead of showing them separately. Because I see they've shown step 3 here. They've added a lot of figures together. You could have shown it separately. Okay, so let's take a step back. Okay. When you're looking at these costs, the collected amount is the 28. The cost, let's go look at this. Okay, what cost do you have here?
Sheriff,
Okay, so 500 plus,
3,000.
yeah, 3,000 plus.
the VAT.
Well, the
VAT a
VAT
co-
on those amounts, yeah, but remember the VAT will be shown separately, eh? Okay, let's just look at the
Okay.
costs on their own. So the 3,000 plus the
Okay,
500.
Collection commission.
Yes. So that gives you the 5,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I get it, yeah.
Okay, so, okay, actually this might be better. I see they've shown a working here. So instead of
Yes.
adding them up separately, they've added up for you. There's the 5,565,
Okay, that goes step
including the
1.
VAT. Okay, we
Step 2.
just spoke about those 3. You told me the fees, not the fees, the
Yeah.
costs were those 3. Agree?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then they
Obviously,
add
you
the
need to
VAT
include
all
the
as
VAT. Okay. And that's
And
going to
there's
give you
this
the
what,
total.
5, 6.
Yeah. Okay, so when you're looking at these steps, step 2, we spoke about that. Step 3, there's the answer. Okay, you should have to add the cost. The cost, when I looked at their solution, I could see they didn't show the cost separately. They just added it all up. And you have to show the working. So the working shows that. Okay, do you see where they got that 5675? It's literally all the costs in the actual statement, but for the client. Okay, because the client has to pay these costs off the amount of money that was received. Because remember, it's the 28 minus costs. So all the costs have to be added up.
Okay.
With me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you've looked at step 1, you've looked at step 2, you've looked at step 3. Okay, the last thing is just the VAT. Okay, we spoke about VAT previously. Remember, there's going to be input VAT and output VAT. Output VAT, is that a liability or an asset? Which one is that? Output VAT.
Liability.
Correct. Output VAT is a liability, and that's payable to SARS. Okay. If there's any input VAT, then you'll claim that. But remember, the correspondent is going to offset their input VAT with the output VAT, because we saw that in the previous example. So in this example, okay, you're only going to be seeing VAT that's going to be payable to SARS. Okay. These portions here are separate. Okay, that's part of the amount that was taken off by the correspondent. Okay, because remember, you're the instructing attorney. Right, so if we look at the VAT, there's the 150 plus the 75. That's that VAT there. Okay. Here they said work out the total VAT, the sharing of fees plus VAT. Okay. And you're looking at the second column, which is adding up all the fees, okay, with the VAT. So you've got VAT output, VAT input. Why is there going to be output? Because output will be greater than inputs because there's income.
Yeah.
That's greater than, inverted commas, expenses. Okay. All right. This income leads to an output VAT liability. And that's why you have credit fees and output VAT. Okay, because as the instructing attorney, okay, the Pretoria attorney, the yellow attorney, the middle attorney, you're going to have fees that you're going to be collecting, and you're going to be liable for the VAT on those fees.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see if they've accounted for that correctly. Let's have a look. There should be a VAT amount.
Should be a VAT account to your account.
Yeah, there should be a VAT account. There's the VAT account. All right,
Yeah.
there's the 150 plus the 75. Okay, that's the VAT that came from the correspondent. Remember, the correspondent had a certain amount of VAT. Okay, but we also have a certain amount of VAT. So this 225 is only on this side of the statement. Okay, remember that statement shows two things. It shows the debit and it shows the credit. There's the 150, there's the 75. Remember, that's the VAT that's coming from the fees that the correspondent is going to be keeping.
Yes.
Okay, it's just looking at the other side of it. Okay, if I go back to this page quickly, just to show you this. Where was it? Here. There. Okay, there's the 75. Okay, but this is a different question. But it's the output VAT, okay, that they have on their fees. But remember, the fees that they're going to keep is going to be offset against the output VAT that they're going to send through to the instructing attorney. Okay, it's an input-output situation. Where was that nice diagram where we saw the input and output VATs? Yes, here's it here. There's the one. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? Are you following?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This output VAT, okay, is going to be offset with that input VAT because this is seen as part of the correspondent because this was chapter 11. Okay. When you look at chapter 12, okay, it's going to be the opposite. Okay. You're now looking at the correspondence VAT, which is separate. Okay, so if you go back to chapter 12, Okay, that 150 and that 75 is VAT on the fees that will be kept by the correspondent, okay, when they drew up the statement to the instructing attorneys. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
All right. So once you've done that working, you'll show that as part of the VAT. So if we look at the answer, they should have shown the VAT. We saw the one amount. Let's have a look at the rest. Let's see. There's the fees. There's the VAT. Okay. There's the 225. Okay. And that 225 is shown there. It's the 1,500 which was paid to the correspondent. Okay. With the 225. Okay, that's the fees journal. Okay, remember, you are in the middle. Okay, what are you accounting for? All the transactions that took place, both between you and the correspondent and you and the client.
Yes.
Okay, so that those client fees need to be accounted for separately, okay, because they belong to the correspondent. That's why they've written here, correspondent business ledger account. Okay, it doesn't relate to our business, it relates to the correspondent, but you need to tell the client that you paid those fees to the correspondent because they're going to want to know, well, where did this 1,725, what happened to it? Where did it go? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and that should also be on the statement. Yes, it is. There's it there. No. That's the commission. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the commission with the VAT. Yes.
There's VAT.
Yeah, it's the share of the fees. Okay, those are all their different charges. See, the summons, the VAT on the summons, the sheriff fee, okay, no VAT on that, and then you've got the commission. So basically, those are all the costs.
Yes.
Okay, if you add up all those costs, you're going to get 5,675.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so it's nice that they've shown this calculation here as well. They've actually done it twice. They've shown it here to explain the workings. So we don't have to do all those calculations. Chapter 12 is a lot better than Chapter 11, actually. Their workings are much better. Okay. Any questions so far? Are you happy with step 1 to 4? 1, 2?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now we need to look at this transfer. Okay, this is where things get a little bit tricky because now you're offsetting the one account with the other. All right, remember? Which attorneys do we have here? We've got the Messina correspondent and we've got the Pretoria practice. Okay, do you agree? The correspondent has already sent you a statement showing everything that they've provided for in terms of work that they had to do on behalf of the clients.
Yes.
The only thing that you have to do now is you have to show that transfer to offset those two accounts to make sure that they balance, because this 28,000, okay, remember earlier on we said the net amount is going to be paid to the bookkeeper, to the accountant sitting in the Pretoria office. Okay, so they're going to get the net amount, which is basically correspondent total collected less correspondence
Costs.
Fees.
correct
Costs, yeah, fees.
costs
Yeah.
fees exactly. Okay, but remember they need to then show the client, okay, this amount. So
VAT.
whatever this amount comes out to equals net amount after the instructing attorneys
Fees.
costs, fees, yeah. Okay, so there's going to be two net amounts. The one net amount is from the correspondent, which we spoke about. That's on the statement. So the statement shows all of that. You don't have to worry about those amounts. It's given to you. That's this whole statement here. Okay.
Is that the 28,000?
Yes. Well, no. Okay, remember the statement shows you two things. It shows you the total. It shows you their costs. You're using this statement to draw up your statement to the client. Okay, because remember, what is your statement going to show? Your statement is going to show the net amount from the correspondent minus your costs, and then what's left over is paid to the client. Are you with me?
Is that the 24,050? Is that?
Well, the 24,050 is what was paid, okay,
Into-
to the instructing
yeah.
attorney after they've taken
Trust
their cut
account.
of their fees, which is basically the net amount. So yeah, so maybe if I add this figure to this diagram, it'll be the 24,050, yes. Okay, which was the 28 less costs.
Okay, so 28 less costs equals that.
28
Okay.
less costs equals the 24. Yeah, that should be right. Can we work it out?
Writing it here
Maybe
so I
try
can
work it
remember
out. Try
later on.
calculate it. Is that right? No. 28
No.
minus 1 is 7. No, it's going to be less. It's not the amount. It's not the right amount.
Oh, gosh.
It's not the right amount. This EFT payment is after the commission, I think. Yes. Okay. Because remember, those are the costs that the correspondent kept. Okay, so let's write that down. Okay, that would be the 1,150 plus the 575. Okay, so yeah, so if you're looking at this amount here, this total cash, okay, this total cash was the 28,000, okay, which was the total, less any fees, okay, that the correspondent was going to pay their share of the fee. Right, so if we look at that working, let's go back and see. They should have shown that separately. There, okay, BCB, business cost, okay, amount owed by the correspondent. Right, remember, you've got to pay the correspondent their fee. There's that 1725. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, so only 22 is going to come into the trust of the yellow practice.
Yes, because it's after the costs of the business as well. Yeah, so it's the payment.
Yeah.
It's the payment less total costs, because it's basically correspondent giving a statement to the business, okay, net fees, and then this business giving a statement to the client, net more fees. Okay, because that's what I'm trying to show you here. The trust cash book, okay, the total, the payment received from the correspondent. Remember, the correspondent did the work. So the correspondent had to pay for all the costs to do the work, and then only what's left over is going to be paid to the client. Okay. So let's move that here actually. Okay. Less costs. Those costs would be those costs were the other costs, the 5,675. That should get to the right figure. And then the net amount here, let's see if it works. Okay, let's do that. 28 minus 5,675 less 1,150 less 525, close brackets, enter, equals. Let's work that out. Let's see. $20,650. No, that's not Yellow's fee. Something's wrong here. Let's see. Okay, so this 24,050 is less those costs. So I've got 5,675. Okay, that's the cost that the correspondent had to pay. Okay, so those were the costs. Okay. You also had their share of the fee, okay, which was the 1,150 plus the 575. Okay, that makes up the 28. So 28,000 minus that figure, okay, add those costs. So we need to add those costs, not subtract, because those are the total costs. That was the share of the costs. Okay, so if we add, not subtract, then that should work out. Let's see.
Sorry, which figure are you adding?
The 175. Ooh, this should be a 5. This should be a 7, not a 2. So there's a typo here. 7, 7. Okay. All right. So, okay, let me explain it. Okay. So, if you look at this example, okay, that correspondent, remember the correspondent had to do the work. Okay. That correspondent had to pay certain fees. Those fees amounted to 5,675. Everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Okay. Remember we said that a portion of the fee is going to be kept by the correspondents. Okay.
Yes.
And the rest is going to be paid over to the practice. But the practice keeps a share. Remember, those fees are shared between the correspondent and the business. The two law practices. 2/3, 1/3 basically. Remember that.
Yes.
Okay. So when you have the 2/3, 1/3 split, the fees don't change. The fees stay at 5,675. The only difference is that there's a portion of that fee that's given to the practice. Okay.
Yes.
The practice keeps their fee and pays the difference to the client. So the net amount,
Yes.
the total amount, would be the cost, the 28,000
Yes.
minus all the costs, plus the fees that they keep because they had to pay the correspondent. So the net amount
Yes.
actually is the 24,050. And that will be kept in the business, okay, that will be payable to the client after costs.
So it gets taken off to determine what the client needs to get, and it gets added again so that the correspondent can split it again and show to the
Yeah, so
client how it got there.
you've included it and then you've taken it out. Yes, because remember the client doesn't see what happens here. The client only sees their own statement. Okay, that's why you have to show this. That's why these amounts are separate. This amount, this 24,500 is the total amount, okay, without the correspondence fee. Does that make sense? Because the correspondence
Yes.
fee is going to be taken
Already
off.
taken off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's why you've got the total,
but
and then it
practice,
shows
yellow
separately.
practice fee is still in there
Sorry, say that again.
and needs to get, but the Pretoria practice, the yellow, is still included and needs to come out there.
Yes, that's their own fee. That's the next step. Yeah, that was step number 5. So yeah, okay, is step number 4 okay?
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah,
just
from
remember
cost.
that this 24,050 is basically the full amount, okay, that's going to be sitting here before they take their own share.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And that goes into your trust, that goes into the trust account of yellow.
It goes
of
into the trust
yellow.
account of yellow, yes, because it's their money and they're basically going to be paid out the difference after all the
Yeah.
fees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically yellow's money. So the 28,000 is sitting with yellow in the trust bank account. Remember, that's what we said, eh? Trust bank account, full amount. Some of it goes to the correspondent, some of it goes to the business. They only get what's left.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why when you look at the working here, the trust cash
Isn't
book.
22 what gets paid to 22 is what gets paid to client, not 24.
Yes. Yes,
Your
less
previous
costs.
slide.
Payable to client after costs.
What's this 22,325?
That's the account.
that's
to
the
yellow.
amount payable.
Yeah, we'll discuss it now because that's step number 5.
Okay,
As long as you're happy with the 24, because the 24 is payable to the client after the costs.
Okay, so cost must still be taken off.
Yes, yeah, we haven't got
Okay.
there yet. Okay, yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
Okay, so that was step number 4. Step number 4, okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, step number 4 was this working, taking the other amount into consideration, because that was the fees, okay, and the share that the correspondent is going to keep. Because the correspondent keeps a certain amount of their fees. They don't pay it over. That's why you have to account for it in your books. Because remember, whatever the business gets from the correspondent is always less the cost that they keep.
Yes.
Okay, that's why you're basically including it. You're adding it back because it shouldn't be taken out in the first place. You're going to take it out now when you're doing it for the clients.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's quite tricky because you're looking left and you're looking at right. You're looking at both. That's why it's a bit confusing. Okay, but yeah, hopefully it makes sense. And then we've got the last bit. which is step number 5. So step number 5 is the transfer and the account to the client. Okay, that's what we were busy discussing here. Okay, so let's go back to the bottom here. Okay, all right, so are you happy with this 28,000 and the 24?
Yes.
Okay, earlier we spoke about this 5,675. Those were all the costs that we looked at. That was the total. Those costs were
Yes.
on the statements.
Yes.
Okay, that's easy. That you just add up. Okay, those costs have to be shown, okay, because it relates to who? It relates to the correspondent. We're basically
Yes.
drawing up the T account that relates to the correspondent. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. How much does the correspondent get? The correspondent gets a third. Agree?
Yes.
Okay, that third is the 1,725. That's what they get to keep.
Yeah.
That's their share. Also, this is on the statements. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you draw up the... so remember, I know earlier there was a question about this, the totals. It's
Yes,
just
the
a
story,
total.
yeah.
A total is just a total.
Okay.
That figure you can calculate, that figure you can calculate, that figure you can calculate. Then you add up, and the difference is what you want. Okay, this difference is inverted commas like a balancing figure.
A balance. Okay.
Okay, because that balancing figure is going to close off all the accounts. And that's why you have the 1,750 here, which is net the costs, okay, and what yellow ends up with. Agree?
Yes.
So the balancing figure is what yellow will get.
Correct. No, well, this
Okay.
balancing figure is the portion that's going to be owed to the correspondent. And what's left over is what the client gets. Because remember, in this relationship, this is the trust cash book of Messina. Okay? Messina has to pay this to the correspondent. And you need to show that to the client. Amount owed to the correspondent, because the correspondent helped you to complete the work. So there's a net amount. There's an amount that's missing. There's an amount that's short. Okay. All right, and you should be able to see that as well in the client statements. Where's yellow? Here's yellow. Okay, but this is the ledger account. Okay. Maybe just to keep it simple, here's another way of looking at it. Okay. Client view. How much did we collect?
28, yeah.
28,000. Okay. How much cost do we have to pay?
5 something. 5,675.
Exactly. Okay, remember, oops, too many zeros. 5,675. Okay, remember, this is for the job to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, earlier you even said clients don't go to the attorneys in their area, and that's why they use these, that's why correspondents have to come about. Because remember, if the client went to the attorney, that would have been case closed. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, the case isn't closed because there's a middle person, there's a middle practice. Okay, the correspondent already completed the case closed, but the only problem is this practice is going to be taking a share in terms of their fees for having given that work to the correspondent before they pay the client. And that's why you have that additional cost. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. So that's why when you look at yellow, if you look at yellow's trust account, remember just the trust account, forget about the correspondence. If you're looking at yellow's trust account, the client's view, okay, the trust account, let me just put a note there. The only amount that you actually have left over is the 22,325. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. The correspondence stuff is done internally because a portion is kept here and a portion is kept there. That's where the tricky bit
Yes.
comes in, because you need to split the fees because they each share a portion of it.
Okay.
Okay, this is probably the easiest view because it's the client.
Yeah.
Remember, the client
Yeah.
doesn't care how the job is done. The client
Yes.
wants the job to be
Yes.
done. It's the attorneys that make things complicated because they couldn't do it, so they have to do it. And then they've got to account for it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why you're looking at both, because you're looking at the statement that goes to the client. The client needs to know, okay, they did a certain amount of work, they did a certain amount of work, and that makes up the full amount.
Yes.
Okay, right, and that's the last part, that's the last step, that's step 4 and 5. I see they've put them together. The last thing is just to show the client what we've spoken about, and they should have shown that here in the summary. There's it there. Okay, so let's summarize. Let's go through everything that we've discussed so far. Okay. This is the full amount. Remember, this is the statement to the client. Okay, so if I
Yes.
go show this picture here, okay, the client wanted to recover 28,000 from the customer, Mr. Green. Okay,
Yeah.
that 28,000 was collected by the correspondent because their attorney couldn't do the work. They collected the 28,000. This 28,000, a portion is going to be paid, okay, less costs, okay, to this practice. And that's what you're looking at here. Okay, you're looking at the statement to the client because this net amount, the net amount after the correspondent costs, whatever you have, you are going to then show the client what took place. Okay, so you're showing the client. There's the 28,000 that we collected, but we didn't collect it. The correspondent collected it. The correspondent had to pay all of these fees, okay, with the commission, okay, and that's going to total the 5,675. Okay, and then you've got the balance, which is paid over to the client. Okay, so when you're looking at the statement for the client, it's only focusing on costs, okay, and what's paid to them, but less any fees that the correspondent had to pay, because this correspondent was actually the one that was doing the work. Okay, so when you look at the correspondence books, you're going to be focusing on this. Okay, that's why you have a correspondence ledger account. Okay, the correspondent ledger account is going to make sure that we've done things correctly. We're going to match what we have in our books with what they have in their books. Right, that's why this amount looked a bit higher. If you go back, look at this.
29.
This was the 28,000. Yeah, I remember someone asking me about the 29. Where was the 29? Here's the 29. Okay, the 29,725 is too much. It's because of this. It's the extra amount.
Yeah.
It's extra, inverted commas, because remember, it's something that the correspondent had to do, okay, that this law practice has to obviously consider. And that's why when you're matching their books together, the correspondence ledger account, you are going to get an amount that's bigger because there's an amount that's accounted for twice. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you take out the cost, that's why this works, because the cost that we had here was the 1725. And that 1725 offsets with that 1725, and that basically lands up with 0. Okay, and there should have been a transaction for that here as well somewhere. Let's see it. Where was it? No, further down. Okay, they might even have shown that working here somewhere.
So
Yeah, there, the
this
transfer
one?
journal. There's it. There's it there. It's a transfer. Okay, it's a transfer because remember what I said earlier? It's to make the books balance. That's all. It's a balancing figure to make the books balance, but it's based on the fees that were used to calculate the total.
So it's basically the third of the costs.
Let's work that out quickly. But I don't think.
Pla-
Let's just check it.
Minus
5675 divided by 3.
not total.
No, it's not.
Almost.
Okay, because remember there's still VAT, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes it won't be just the third. Yeah, you have to do the calculations. You have to account for VAT separately. You can't just divide it by 3. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Chapter 12. You need to think about the client and you need to think about the correspondent. And that's why you need to look at both of them because of that discrepancy. Okay, you're going to have that transfer that needs to be done to offset the one amount. Okay, because you'll have a correspondent debit and you have to offset that with the correspondent credit so that the accountant's records, remember the business's ledger, this ledger is going to match with that trust account ledger, which is basically their books. Okay, because you're showing their books and your books because you're in the middle. You're accounting for the left and you're accounting for the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, is that it? Looks like it. Okay, there's just a note here, the use of a business journal. Okay, let's quickly discuss this. This is theory. When do you use a business journal?
When it's not cash. Business journal. No.
Okay, remember business journals. So if you have a business journal is looking at transactions that the business would provide for. Okay, so that would be their own transactions, not for the correspondent, but theirs. So I see they've given you a note here in the textbook. They spoke about only the trust journal is used. Why? It's because it was the client's money, not the business. Okay, if it was the business, you wouldn't have shown anything in the trust journal. This is just revision, actually. Okay, you get trust journals. Who does that relate to?
Business.
No, trust journals, the clients.
Yeah, the client.
Okay, and then you get business journals that relate to the business. Okay, the law practice. Law practice. Let's write that down. Okay, so trust journals are used, okay, to provide for those movements, okay, the payments and the receipts. Okay, because when you receive money, okay, the money belongs to the client, Mr. Yellow. Okay, Yellow gets the 28,000. Okay, this is just accounting in terms of journals. And then you've got the ledger accounts. Okay, there's the business journal. Okay, the business journal is only going to record costs that they have to actually provide for. Okay, if there are any costs that they need to provide for. Here they said there was, 2,000. Where's the 2,000 coming from? Let's go confirm that. The 2,000 came from, let's see. It must be a business expense. Maybe it wasn't provided for in this question. It might have been additional information. Yeah, it doesn't look like they mentioned it in this question. Yeah, but those would have been business expenses. Okay, because it's a business journal.
So these are, if you go down, it says something about 30 there. Stop. It's a cost for 30 and only 20 is available in the client's trust ledger. The amount induced would be as follow.
Okay, remember this is if there wasn't enough money to cover costs. So if the costs were greater than the 28,000, right? Remember, if the costs were higher, okay, then what's going to happen?
You're going to have a debit in your business.
The law practice is going to get paid even more money. Who's the law practice going to get paid money from? The clients. Okay, so if costs exceed the amount of money that's collected, and that can happen. That can happen in a scenario of bad debt.
Yes.
Like, let's assume the client has defaulted. And they can't pay you 28, they can only pay you 10,000. But now the costs are more than that. Then obviously the client needs to pay the law practice.
Difference.
Okay. Because remember, it's a risk, okay? That's why businesses aren't going to go to attorneys with small amounts. They're going to go to the attorneys with big amounts. Because they need to make sure that they cover the cost. Because if they don't cover the cost, if the costs exceed the amount of money that was recovered for the client, then the business is actually going to have to pay the client is going to have to pay the business. Yeah. Okay, that's just something additional I see here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. How are we feeling?
Okay.
Hectic. Feeling better, hopefully. Hopefully you'll manage. When do you write the exam, Melanie?
Saturday morning.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's quite soon. You've still got, what, Thursday and Friday left? Do they give you study leave?
Yeah, well, Judith's on leave. I'm taking Friday off.
Okay, okay.
But yeah.
All right.
So the other section is just the bank recons, which is not too bad.
Okay.
And then sort of blended in with this is conveyancing, where you've got those section, what is it, 86.3 and 86.4 bank accounts or accounts that you would open for the client pending the lodgement and the registration of the bond. And then recalling of those investments and then paying the either 95/5 split over to the client and the law society, or the full interest over to the law society, or to the client. No, to the law society, yeah.
Okay, is that the scope for the assessment on Saturday? Eh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How many exams do you write? Is it just one, or do you write many? Do they break it down for this accounting?
No, one.
It's just one exam, eh? Okay. So it's one exam covering all those topics.
Yes, a lot of work.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, it's yeah, it does sound like quite a bit. Yeah, but I do have a recording covering bank recon, so I don't mind forwarding you the link, and you can maybe have a look at that and see if it helps. But I do have some resources covering the bank recon. Unfortunately, I don't have any other resources covering those other topics, so I won't be able to help with that. But hopefully you'll be okay for Saturday.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Very much. It was really excellent and value. Thanks. I've got to leave, and thank you very much, and very interesting.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm gonna forward the email. I'm gonna email the Excel to Melanie. So if Melanie, you can just forward it to Judith as well. At least she'll have that.
Okay.
Thank you, least then you have what we did today. Okay, great.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Anthony.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay. Thank
Bye,
you, everyone.
Judith.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So I might
Yes?
the board exams is in March. So this is just a law night school.
Oh, okay.
Which if you pass this, you get a reduction in your articles.
Okay. Wow, that's really good. What sort
so
of attorney are you, Melanie?
No, I'm not an attorney.
Oh,
I'm
you're
a
not?
social worker.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm a social worker, and I studied law part-time.
Oh, nice.
But
Wow,
Judith
that's
is
good.
an advocate, and we both work at the Family Advocates Office. So we actually deal with divorces and
Okay. Interesting.
the rights of parents and so on.
Wow.
But Judith is retiring, so she wants to go back to being an attorney. So she wanted to do a refresher.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet someone that's in the social, like doing good in the social side of things. I'm sure you do lots of good work there in your office. Yeah.
Thank
Family
you.
stuff,
Well,
yeah.
50% of my clients hate me because I don't make recommendations in their favor. But yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, good luck with Saturday. I hope it goes well, and thank you for the opportunity to assist. If you do need my help in future, just let me know, and then I don't mind helping you.
Give you a call in January, February to get on board for March.
Okay, no
to
problem.
be ready for March.
All right.
But
Yeah.
then I'll forward you the complete manual.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take it from there. We'll see what happens later on. Okay.
And if I'm doing a supplementary in 3
Hopefully
weeks'
not.
time, I'll also let you know.
Okay. Hopefully not. Yeah. Hopefully not. Okay. Let's stay positive. Okay. All right.
Yes. Thanks, Anthony.
Okay. You're welcome, Melanie. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Anne.
Bye.
Bye.